Welcome back to Scruffy Tales. In this video, we'll take a look at the absolute basics of modern combat in the air, as in combat between fighter jets, what is known as BVR. BVR, Beyond Visual Range, is combat where you rely on a radar and a missile to kill an enemy aircraft at extreme distances. The opposite of the classic dogfight. And we will explore how that works, how you can counter the radar and the missile, and also how stealth plays into all of this. So, let's start with the basics concerning radar, and this will be super simple, the absolute basics. Here we have blue side sending a fighter into hostile territory. He is spotted by red side's radar installation. Red side sends a fighter to intercept. The red fighter uses his own radar to lock onto the blue fighter and launches a missile. Eventually, the red missile can track the blue fighter using its own radar. To get out of this alive, blue fighter turns as quickly as possible. He drops countermeasures in the shape of chaff. Chaff is clouds of metal strips that basically blocks radar from seeing what is going on behind these clouds. Blue fighter also swings in low to make use of the terrain to hide him from various radar sources. Blue fighter has now avoided the enemy radar installation and the enemy missile, and is now going full speed away from them all to avoid further trouble. At this point, blue fighter is only in trouble if red fighter manages to find him with his own radar. Blue fighter decides to fly as low as possible to avoid being detected by radar. As for the missiles, they operate relying on basic physics. Altitude, speed of the aircraft launching the missile, and the thickness of the atmosphere and the resistance provided by the air itself all determines how far you can shoot a missile. Here I've tried to visualize it. The blue arrows, representing fighters, are aligned, one above the other. The flight path of their missiles are copy-pasted. They are the same. The fighter with higher altitude has longer range compared to the fighter flying at low altitude. Also, the faster you move with your fighter affects how far you can reach with your missile. It's like throwing something. The harder you throw a thing, the farther it will go. So, the faster you go with your fighter, the farther the missile can go. Also, the higher up you go, the less resistance you will get from the atmosphere. So flying high up, you spend less fuel because there is less resistance that slows down the aircraft. This obviously also affects missiles. With less resistance from the surrounding air, the missile can fly longer and it spends less fuel, which further increases its range. Electronic Warfare Systems, EW or EWS, is another crucial modern countermeasure. You essentially jam or scramble incoming radar signals and other signals relying on wavelengths, and you hide your aircraft behind this field of disrupting waves. You're not necessarily invisible, but it is harder to establish a lock and at times even harder to locate you. Stealth. Stealth is a magical word. Stealth solves all problems. With stealth, you are indestructible. Except you're not invisible, and you can't really hide with stealth. Not with stealth alone, at least. Because stealth more or less hides from missiles, but not from being detected. Here we have a blue stealth fighter. He is flying low along a carefully planned route. The reason for this is because standard, ordinary radar can without issues detect stealth aircraft. If the blue stealth fighter wants to remain unseen, he must fly low to avoid ordinary radar, just like any other fighter. He is still hidden from red fighter because at longer ranges, he is so small on the red fighter's radar that he is more or less invisible. He might as well be a bird or even an insect. Stealth works specifically against the radar systems that are needed to guide a missile onto a target. The radars used by aircraft and missiles and SAM sites. So they hide from missiles, but ordinary civilian radar installations can track and follow stealth just fine. Here we have two stealth fighters, blue and yellow. Ordinary radar can spot the yellow fighter without issues. The red fighter, on the other hand, has no idea that the yellow fighter is in the area. The blue stealth fighter, on the other hand, is now so close to the red fighter that he appears on the red fighter's radar, and the red fighter could potentially engage the blue stealth fighter. So this is what stealth provides to a fighter. As you can see, both aircraft rely on radar to find the enemy, but stealth hides the user at longer ranges. This allows the stealth aircraft to lock on and fire first. And once the missile locks on with its own radar, the stealth aircraft can turn around and leave the danger zone. So let's take a look at what modern BVR combat might look like. The red fighters wants to launch missiles at the blue radar station. The blue fighters are more advanced and all have excellent electronic warfare systems. The red side have a couple of fighters equipped with electronic warfare pods, and the others are configured for fighting. Blue 7 finds himself in a position where he manages to lock onto Red 2 and launches his missile. At the same time, the low-flying Red 4 hides behind and beneath the electronic countermeasures of Red 3 and relies on the terrain to sneak in and avoid Blue 8 and Blue 7, and in the end manages to open fire on the blue radar installation. This despite Red side having less advanced aircraft. In the skies, Red 2 makes a hard turn and drops countermeasures in the shape of chaff. The chaff blocks the incoming missile's radar, and it can no longer track its target as Red 2 is now hiding in the shadow created by all of the chaff strips floating around in the air. So, Red 2 manages to avoid getting killed by Blue 7 after quickly turning around and dropping chaff and hiding behind them. Going at speed, the incoming missile loses fuel and eventually drops out of the skies. There is just one more problem. Blue 6 joined in on the fight as soon as Red 2 turned around. Being higher up, the chaff does not block Blue 6 radar. Red 2 has also left the cover of the electronic countermeasures provided by Red 1. Blue 6 launches his missile, and the missile soon enough locks on with its own radar. Blue 6 was going faster at higher altitude with less resistance. This affects his missile as its range is increased by quite a lot. Red 2 tries his best to outrun the incoming missile but fails. In the end, Blue 6 gets his kill. And this is why stealth has an advantage. You reduce the chances of getting shot at with a missile, while you can still fire your own missile at the enemy beyond visual range. So, if you have a stealth fighter that is flying low and is also equipped with electronic warfare systems, you quickly realize why the stealth fighter is so dangerous to its opponents. Flying low, the stealth fighter avoids being detected. It can then pop up to launch a missile at a target beyond visual range without risk of getting a missile launched back at it even if it is detected, and then it can drop down into cover again, away from detection, and head back home safely. If your stealth fighter isn't careful, enemy radar could spot him, and an enemy fighter could sneak in and get close enough to launch a missile. Because stealth fighters need to hide, and they need to keep the enemy far away from them to be truly effective, just like any other fighter. There has been talks for months about the West needing to send fighters to Ukraine to help in the war against the Russian invaders. It goes beyond sending aircraft. You need to train pilots, you need to train ground crew, you need logistics, spare parts, missiles, ammunition, technicians, and 1,000 other things before you can send one single Western aircraft into combat. Needless to say, this will take a lot of time. This is why, when Sweden deployed a third of its air force to Finland to fight the Soviets during the Winter War, Sweden did not only send its aircraft, Sweden actually deployed a third of the air force, with planes, pilots, ground crews, spare parts, fuel and ammunition, everything, because otherwise it just takes too long to get things working. Will it matter if it happens? Yes, obviously. Western fighters will outclass and gain air superiority over Ukraine in short order. Russia might have numbers in their favor, but if they cannot lock on first, if they cannot turn away and let the missiles guide themselves, the numbers will soon enough no longer be a factor. Because Russia will have lost those numbers. Western fighters have better radar and better missiles. They can shoot from farther away and the missiles can guide themselves. Russia will lose fighters before they can even launch their own missiles. Obviously, Ukraine needs this ability. Will they get it? Not anytime soon, I'm afraid. The Swedish fighter JAS-39 Gripen is particularly well suited for Ukraine, as many have pointed out. It is designed to be maintained in extreme conditions on the ground, with as few technicians as possible. And in the air, it relies on some of the world's most advanced electronic warfare systems. So advanced, the Gripen is almost a stealth fighter. Plus, it has an excellent radar combined with state-of-the-art missiles. Russia, simply put, cannot compete with the Gripen, and if Ukraine were to receive Gripen during this war, then the Gripen would be instrumental in turning this war around. That will have to be it for this time around. I hope you have enjoyed the video, and if you feel something should be corrected or added, please share it in the comment section. And with that, I hope to see you around. Go på marsch, Ukraine!